Round 11 of the 2016 FF1M season comes to you at the Hungaroring for the Hungarian Grand Prix, usually a chaotic affair, which could bode well for our guest, Joseph Willows from Willows Racing.
How are you doing? It's been a bit of a while indeed, but yeah, it's nice to be back in the commentary box.
And let's start off with yourself actually, because Max Verstappen, what a drive he had to 5th in that dog of a car of yours.
Yeah, indeed. I was a little bit surprised because I've only just recently caught up on the highlights and only just realised that Verstappen scored our first points of the season. A little bit ironic he's done that after we announced that we were splitting with Ilmore, but oh well, I'm not complaining too much.
And a little bit further up, it was Nico Hülkenberg who took the British Grand Prix win. Could have been Kevin Magnussen, but his right rear damper failed coming out of Bridge Corner. Scuppered an FJR 1-2, but an FJR win's an FJR win.
Yep, just a shame it wasn't a 1-2 on your end.
And Hamilton finished second in front of his home crowd, and Roman Grosjean had a good race to third in the X-Lite. And let's look at the Hungaroring's 76 laps and 3 stops expected all round. It's normally a chaotic affair, and that might explain why Felipe Massa was last season's winner, because he stayed pretty much out of trouble.
Yeah, indeed, and well, it has been a chaotic race in the past. Whether or not it will be the same case this time, I will have to wait and see, of course. But yeah, if it means that my car scores some more points, then I'll be a happy bunny, that's for sure.
Absolutely, and there's another view of the circuit and the starting grid. We've got the second front row lockout of the season, but perhaps from an unexpected source, because it's an all Exolite front row. Grosjean on pole, Alonso second.
Very surprising indeed.
And Cooper Lee and Lewis Hamilton make it in all Mitchell row 2. Cooper Lee ahead of Lewis Hamilton this time around. And then row 3 we have got Nico Rosberg struggling a little bit after his Melbourne win. He just hasn't got it together since. And 3-time race winner Sergio Perez. Then Thomas Gonzalez, teammate, in 7th ahead of Kevin Magnussen, 2-time race winner at Mugello and Montreal. He starts 8th. Then Valtteri Bottas starts 9th for GRM's 150th race, so be interesting to see how they do on that milestone.
Indeed so. Vettel down in 12th, shaken bake again, clearly struggling at the moment. Same with Yoshida as well. They've just not had a great season so far.
And there's a new face on this grid as well, and we'll get to him in a moment. But for the rest of the grid, we had Daniel Ricciardo 10th, Nico Hülkenberg 11th, Verne 13th, Yoshida 14th, and Raikkonen and Da Costa 15th and 16th. Then we've got Carlos Sainz 17th, ahead of Nicholas Latifi in 18th, and the other Pedersen 19th and 20th. And there's Max Verstappen, driver of the day at Silverstone, and a new boy, James Clark, in Gajera overalls, in 20th on the grid.
Oh, the guy that beat Verstappen to the title. It was a bit ironic when I signed Verstappen, he was leading it, and then next thing I see, Clark won the title somehow.
But he gets a chance in the place of Robert Kubica, and Gajera hoping that Kubica gets another chance, and I have heard a rumour, could get onto that a bit later on, but we'll focus on the race start for now. 4 lights, 5 lights, Grosjean on the left, and it's 5 lights out. And who gets the best start of the front row? Grosjean gets a good start. It looked as if Hamilton got a very good start, and he's already passed Lee. Is he going to pass Alonso into the first corner? Indeed he is. And then further back, Lee defending from Perez, who has also had a good start. He's jumped Rosberg, and Magnussen has jumped Gonzalez for 7th place.
Very good start indeed from Hamilton there. So far the top 4 consisting of both a Mitchell and an Alex-Light so far, as Van Dorn brings up the rear of the field, so pretty much back to normality for my team as a result after that high that we had at Silverstone. But Hamilton already starting to challenge Grosjean already.
And that suggests to me that X-Lite went quite qualifying heavy with their setup if they qualified first and second. They were quick in first practice. Alonso was second, only 4 thousandths of a second behind Kevin Magnussen, but then Mitchells took to the fore in FP2 before X-Lite took the front row.
Indeed so, as it looks like the Mitchells are going very quickly because they're hounding both the X-Lights at the moment. Hamilton, of course, attacking Grosjean, and you've got Alonso who's being hounded by Cooper Lee at the moment, as Perez gained a place off Rosberg at the start to get up into 5th. So far 5th and 8th for the 2 Tornado drivers at the moment.
And it was a bit of a difficult race for Tornado last time. Let's have a look at Lewis Hamilton trying to get up the inside of Grosjean into the first corner. And that's the race lead for Lewis Hamilton. That could be a crucial move as Rosberg takes 5th position off of Sergio Perez.
Great stuff indeed there, and initially after Perez got the jumpers, it looks like, I think that might have been Hamilton there that locked up, so already taking the lead and already pushing a little bit too hard it seems, but fortunately for him, Grosjean was not able to take full advantage from that, as meanwhile Rosberg is now all over the back of Alonso, who's currently forming his own version of the Truly train at the moment.
We've got yellow flags down at turn 2, so somebody's had either an off or an incident. It's Daniel Ricciardo with a very, very early puncture. That's his first retirement of the season in the Andrew.
Well, it says Van Dorn in 20 seconds, so I hope he's not been caught up in it, unless it's just the graphic that's not just updated yet. But yeah, I'm a bit worried Van Dorn might have got caught up in that.
Let's hope for your sake that he hasn't got caught up in that one, but hopefully it is just a graphical glitch. So, Cooper Lee versus Fernando Alonso going through the penultimate corner, which doesn't have a name, but I've discovered that there are a couple of corners on the Hungaroring that do have names. The turn 3 is named after Nigel Mansell, and then the tricky turn 11, which is the fast right exiting the second sector, is named after Jean Alesi.
Interesting. Maybe there may be more corner names in the future with this track. We'll have to wait and see. As Alonso, it's fair to say, despite the fact that he's holding up a train, doing a very good job to defend from the cars behind. Because Cooper Lee tried to go for a move on the previous lap, but clearly couldn't make it stick. Could he maybe this time get the move done? Or in fact, it looks more like that Rosberg is closer to Lee, but because of the slipstream that Lee has got on Alonso, he's going to attack as Alonso goes defensive into the first corner, but it's not going to phase Lee. And this time, Cooper's going to get the move done, or is he? Because Alonso's going to hang it around the outside, going around into turn 2. They're still going to remain side by side. Rosberg watching on with a bit of popcorn on his hand, as that's where Ricciardo pulled off a little bit earlier on. Just saw the Sauber liveried car on the side there, as they're still going to go side by side. As meanwhile Magnussen attacking Rosberg, and Lee finally gets the move done. A great move from the Australian.
Great scrap for third position, now going the way of Cooper Lee, and Magnussen overtook Perez on that lap going into the first corner, but their scrapping will have given quite a gap between Grosjean and Lee. It was 2 seconds, but it's 2.8 as they cross the first sector point, exiting turn 10 and then a Lacey corner. I suppose it should be our job to name the rest of these corners. I've got a few in mind, but I'll let you come up with some ideas as well.
Maybe we could name it after some nicknames that you've given to certain drivers like Charles Pic or Antonio Felix da Costa, although I have got a nickname of my own for da Costa, unlike the one that you've got with Silverstone. Might as well call him Costa Lot of Coffee.
I'll be more than happy to replace Tony Costa with that one. As up the inside, Rosberg fourth from Alonso, and Gonzalez getting into a bit of aggro with Sergio Perez.
Yep, the two tornadoes swapping places there, so the championship leader Gonzalez now up into 7th place. Been mighty consistent this season, has the Uruguayan driver, and been very impressive so far, it must be said. As meanwhile Alonso. We've got Alonso, he's gone wide and he's gone for a spin.
And that's mayhem created as a result of that. Alonso out and a tornado is out as well. Which one was it? I didn't quite see.
It looked like Perez's helmet from the looks of it. I think Gonzalez might have just got away with it.
But it looks as if Perez at least has continued. So Tornado getting away with a little bit there, but Alonso definitely out of the race.
Yep, so 2 retirements already, and we're down to 20 runners, so the carnage has already begun. And it's usually this corner here, as we just see Rosberg having a moment there, to prove my point there. It's normally that corner where we see a lot of the mistakes happen, and clearly the drivers like to push a little bit too hard at that point. It's Massa's out of the race.
Engine failure, yet another engine failure for Meister, who are departing at the end of this season. AJ Motorsports will be taking their place and running Hart engines. That's another new one.
That's a surprise. I hadn't heard that news. Obviously, I've been out of the loop a little bit, so I'm a little bit sad to see that after only 2 seasons, Laura Chung's team decided to pull out at the end of the season. Maybe it could open the door for a new team in the future if AJ decides he wants to give that space up that he's currently taking at the moment. I know that we've had a couple of new people join our Discord, so maybe they could be interested. Who knows?
Potentially, yes. But for the moment, AJ will be making a return, and they'll be the only team, well, that's where Ricciardo's pulled off from the exit of the circuit, and AJ will be the only team running Hart engines, and from FGR, welcome to the Judd family.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. I saw that news just today, just before we went on the record there. But yeah, I mean, you did suggest that you did offer me an opportunity to be a customer to your engine, and well, it ended up. I decided, you know what, it's probably the best option to go with, because your team has definitely done a good job so far with that engine. You've had a very good turnaround, a bit like McLaren in real life. Ironic that you've got an orange livery for that for that instance. But yeah, that's kind of my thought process there. Well, I went with the top two of the ones I thought were the ones that would give me 100% power when it came to ERS, so that was my thought process on that one, really. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the partnership with Judd, and hopefully it can revitalise the team in the future.
And hopefully I can provide a nice, reliable engine for you. As Magnussen, speaking of Judd, he's getting a bit trapped behind Cooper Lee, the battle for third place, and this is kind of scuppering Magnussen's race chance a little bit, because I have gone a bit of a contrary setup to what you'd normally pick at the Hungaroring. Normally at a twisty circuit, qualifying matters, but I've gone the total opposite and focused on a race setup, and with the harder tyres as well.
Indeed so. Well, for me, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, because it's been a while since I checked my spreadsheet. But of course, in case anybody is wondering, because of course we were given the option to stop development if we wanted to. That's exactly what I've done. I think I've decided to stop development as soon as the option came about, because given that this season has been, safe to say, a disaster, I thought it was probably I was never going to get out of a rut. As meanwhile, Yoshida has now just retired from the race, so that makes it 4 retirements now, so they're dropping like flies at the moment. But yeah, that was my thought process there, really, and hopefully it will give me a good opportunity to hopefully have a good car next season, as meanwhile we've got a pitter.
And it's Nico Rosberg with the mechanical issue. I did see him get overtaken by Thomas Gonzalez at the penultimate corner, and there's an issue with Nico Rosberg's brakes. That's not what you want around the Hungaroring.
Definitely not, indeed, especially how we're seeing so many people going wide at that left-hander, really. And, well, we know that this track has, in the past, been known as a tyre killer, but, yeah, you definitely need your brakes to work around here, because it's more of a downforce track than it is of a power track, so your brakes are more dependent than what they are at high-speed tracks like at Silverstone, or even Hockenheim, where we're going to next.
And by the looks of it, Rosberg's just brought his first pit stop forward, because he took on quite a bit of fuel, and he's rejoined behind Cost a Lot of Coffee in 16th place.
Haha, nice of you to use that nickname. As meanwhile, Hulkenberg is going for the move on his fellow compatriot here, Sebastian Vettel. And
that's into the first corner. He's round the outside. It looks like a repeat of that battle between, was it Alonso and Lee? And through turn 3, and there's a Gajera lurking up, and it's Jean-Eric Verne. So a battle for 8th place could be important. I think Vettel has chopped in front going into either Felipe Massa or Ralph Furman corner.
Yeah, we'll name it after that, I guess, given that he had his terrible accident there. Oh, of course.
Well, there goes.
to be honest, given I'm splitting up with Elmore, I don't really care at this point. But yeah, it's still a bit of a disappointment nonetheless.
That's going to be AJ's problem, the lack of laps, because I think effectively Hart are taking over from the Ilmore development, and AJ will be developing that himself. As up the inside, is that Verne past Vettel? I think it is. And Hulkenberg did take Vettel a lap before, and I think Verne's into the pits this lap as well.
Yeah, indeed, but he's got the move done as we now look at Lewis Hamilton, who he himself is coming into the pits with quite a lot of fuel still in his wagon, 6.9 to be exact, so he could have gone a little bit longer, but he's decided to pit on this lap.
And he opened up quite a large lead over Roman Grosjean, some 16.1 seconds as the Exolite drive across the second sector point, so looking good for Hamilton in the early stages.
This could be a free stop because we are only on lap 15 of 76, so maybe he's going for a similar strategy to what we saw a couple of guys doing at Silverstone last time out.
Yeah, there's a mix of 2 and 3 stops at Silverstone. I think with this one we're expecting 3 stops pretty much all round, as Grosjean briefly takes the lead, and now this becomes the battle for second, Lee versus Magnussen, and still Magnussen can't get past as Gonzalez has taken a lot of fuel on board.
Quite a lot indeed, although I did notice it was about 27 laps for Hamilton, so it looks like he's going 2 laps longer than what Lewis is doing.
Short first stint, long second stint, as Magnussen's in a Mitchell sandwich, as Hamilton on new tyres looks to do something about Magnussen into the first corner, but the Dane holds on.
He does indeed, as he currently finds himself in the Mitchell sandwich at this stage. Lee currently performing a great defensive masterclass. Bottas, meanwhile, comes into the pits, a previous winner of this track, it must be said. And I was a little bit surprised when watching Silverstone that last time out it was his first points of the season, or was it Spielberg, in fact, that I watched where it was his first points of the season, because I thought he'd already scored some.
Yeah, it was Austria where he nearly got a podium finish, challenged Magnussen, and yeah, Bottas' first points of the season, JRM second, because Sainz had a 7th place at Interlagos, as we look at Rosberg, who's being chased by Gonzalez for 9th place, and just ahead is Kimi Raikkonen, who I think has a pit stop to make.
Be interested to see what happens with Raikkonen and Massa after this season, now that the Meister team are pulling out at the end of the season.
Yeah, maybe AJ could snap them up, or maybe AJ could snap up one of the up-and-coming FF1M drivers. We'll have to wait and see when this silly season starts proper.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, some of us can negotiate with our current drivers at the moment, and I might do that after I've done this commentary with mine, but we'll have to wait and see, of course. Normally it doesn't end well, because normally one driver decides, you know what, I'm going to bugger off, like it happened with Rosberg last season and Alonso the previous season. So I've always had luck with one driver, just not the other one for some reason.
And there's a battle for second, Magnussen versus Lee. I think this is on the lap where it happened, because I did briefly see Magnussen overtake Lee on the 17th lap, and this must be how he's done it. Around the outside of 2, and then into 3, Mansell corner, and he's got him. So Magnussen now up to second, finally free of Lee.
Yep, and I wonder if Mitchell will invert the cars and allow Hamilton to go through on Lee as well. I have to see. Meanwhile, that's Rosberg overtaking Kimi Raikkonen there.
That's moving back up to 8th place, so Rosberg recovering fairly well as Lee comes into the pits, so engineering swap done. Just bring Lee into the pits and move Hamilton back up the order.
Yep, indeed, a perfect plan there, as now Lee trundles down pit lane. There is another car in front of him that's also in the pits as well, so it'd be interesting to see how quick this stop is going to be for Lee. He's taken 26 laps of fuel, so we are on lap 18, so maybe a 2-stop. Could that still be a 3-stop? I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. Grosjean was the other one that was in the pits, and he's going to come out. Where is he going to emerge? In 7th place, it seems, just in front of Cooper Lee.
Yeah, I think it should still be a 3-stop strategy all round, and I think Sergio Perez is due into the pit soon. And interestingly, now that Magnussen got ahead of Lee, he's pulled out a little bit of a gap over Lewis Hamilton. Well, Hamilton's just got that back up. Never mind.
That was from while it lasted, but now here comes Lewis on the inside then of the Dane, and it's an easy move. Lewis back into the lead of the Grand Prix.
On much fresher tyres, and Magnussen's teammate Hülkenberg due into the pits on this lap as Lee rounds the back of the circuit. The middle sector, turns 10 and 11. Let's see what happens.
I've got a feeling where this is going. I think I've got a feeling. Yeah, I knew it. It's this right-hander. Has he gone into the wall? He has, but luckily he's got away with it.
So Lee skirting with danger at a lacy corner, as into the penultimate one goes the Australian. So, who we're looking at? James Clark in the number 69 and a James Hunt-style helmet. That was a little touch by AJ.
Ah, that would explain the number 69 then, I think, if he's got a James Hunt helmet. I think we kind of know where he went with that one.
Now, is this another incident at a lacy corner? Yes, it is, as that's Bottas.
And luckily, no damage for him, but he has gone for a spin, and he's going to have to wait an awful long time. That's another mistake he's made, 2 consecutive races now, because he made a mistake at Silverstone as well. He did indeed, yes. He made that mistake at the Abbey corner, which... quite unusual to see a mistake there, but Bottas somehow managed it. I gave him a nickname as well in the previous race, known as the Ass Man now. Or you could have said Bottas. Just a thought. It's a preferred saying that. Yeah, let's move on. Magnussen into the pits. Let's not go off topic on there, but Magnussen finishes off his pit stop, no issues whatsoever. And he rejoins in 5th behind Thomas Gonzalez, and let's see what he can do on newer tyres. It's moving 6th, Lee, Perez 7th, and Verne up to 8th in the Gajera. So exiting turn 3, that's Magnussen in 5th place, chasing Gonzalez now, and let's see how quickly he can catch up to him. Well, that's pretty quickly, because he's back up
He's up to the back of him, going through the penultimate corner. Let's see what he can do.
Let's see, indeed, and I think he's probably going to get a good run onto the pit straight here.
And let's see how much ERS that these two teams are running. It can run up to 100%, but Magnussen, well, Gonzalez defended that one, so he's going to have to work for it, is K-Mag.
He is indeed, so it's not going to be that easy indeed. And in fact, Magnussen did have a similar issue. I think it was Magnussen who had a similar issue trying to pass Lee earlier on.
Yeah, Magnussen got stuck behind Lee in the first stint of the race as Nico Hülkenberg challenges Jean-Eric Vergne going to the first corner, and he's got him. Hülkenberg into the points, both FJRs now in the top 8.
Very good indeed, although I think knowing James Brickles, he'd want them to be a little bit more higher, as Grosjean's now attacking Rosberg here, and I think he's going to get the move done.
Yep, up to second place, and Rosberg's done quite well considering his early mechanical drama. And a quick note from James Brickles, yes, he would like his cars to be higher, and I think Magnussen has just passed Gonzalez. Let's see where he does that, as, well, actually Rosberg has just held on to second place from Grosjean.
Yeah, indeed so a little bit surprising there, as he makes an error. That's the second time he's made that error, and Grosjean says thank you very much, and I'll take second place with ease.
So Rosberg's hard work has all been gone, and coming up to him, there is Magnussen. And here is a replay of how he overtook, going onto the main straight, and up the inside he got the run a little bit earlier, Gonzalez choosing not to defend that on that occasion, and as a result, Magnussen takes that position.
With ease there, and well, Magnussen doing a cracking job so far in the FJR, although he would hope that he doesn't retire like last time out at Silverstone. As speaking of which, in fact, this is from another part from this, because this is Magnussen behind Rosberg once again. Was this a little bit earlier on in the race, or has something else happened?
It may well be live, but there's Gonzalez going to have a little off at turns 12. He is indeed, and that was Lee getting ahead. Now he's got Sergio Perez to deal with, but we are pretty much back live now as Magnussen challenges Rosberg for second and takes that away from him. So Magnussen now to third, next target Grosjean, and he did that overtake at Hill Corner. I'm naming that one Damon Hill.
Okay, well, that will confirm then that somewhere unseen by the cameras, Rosberg did re-overtake Magnussen somewhere on the racetrack. There is a yellow flag, meanwhile, on the racetrack, and it's James Clark, the debutant.
The new boy out of the race with another Mugen issue, although not engine, it's in the transmission area. So James Clark having a somewhat inauspicious debut, but never mind.
Never mind indeed, and maybe we'll have to see if he improves on that. As speaking of which, here's his teammate Vergne, and he's coming up towards his infamous right-hander, and he's going to make the mistake now, is he? But he's gone for a spin, and that's that, as it looks like cars are going to have to go around him. That's Bottas having to get around him there as a result, and a miserable day for Guy, it seems.
A miserable day indeed, and now here is a battle for, which one is that? 6th place between Perez and Gonzalez. Well, it's Gonzalez, Perez and Hülkenberg lurking up to those two. Now, two tornadoes collided into Hill Corner last year, much to the irk of Tobias, who was in the commentary box at the time, and he got a bit of a telling off afterwards for that.
Yeah, indeed, but this time around, Perez able to pass him cleanly, as meanwhile Grosjean is under attack here from Kevin Magnussen, so Magnussen has already caught up to the Frenchman here.
So Magnussen now looking at second place, looking to regain more points that he lost at Silverstone. Just 2/10 is the gap between these two. Can Magnussen outbrake him into Hill Corner? Yes, he can. That was pretty decisive. Now then, Hamilton's got a large lead. Can Magnussen do anything about that? We'll have to wait and see over the next few laps, but I think Magnussen will do well to catch up to him.
It's going to be a bit of an ask because it's 28.2 seconds he's got to gain, but he'll give it a hard go. Meanwhile, speaking of FGRs, Hülkenberg also on the move as he goes on the inside of Gonzalez. They're going to go side by side around turn number 1. Gonzalez tries to stick it in there, but Hülkenberg, I think, has just got the edge, although they are going to remain side by side going around turn number 2. They've also got Vettel getting onto them, but eventually Hülkenberg gets the move done, and he's up into 7th place, and now Gonzalez has got to deal with Sebastian Vettel, who we're riding on board with.
So it could seem that Tornadoes are struggling a little bit in the race. Maybe they went a bit... Maybe they didn't do enough race setup, but... Well, Vettel nearly understeering into Gonzalez at Hill Corner, but somehow managing to hold on to that one.
Yeah, indeed, as Vettel now then will try again, as meanwhile this is Rosberg who's now on the back of Grosjean. Grosjean appearing to be going backwards at the moment as he goes down the inside, and Rosberg takes P3 from the Frenchman.
And that's surprising a little bit because Rosberg has got a little bit older tyres than Grosjean. Maybe Exolite's slightly qualifying bias setup, speculated, could be showing itself there. But into the pits for his second stop comes Rosberg.
He was about to lap his teammate Latifi there, so just showing the talent level between the two there.
Yeah, Latifi struggling a little bit in this race, and I just noticed something. Da Costa is showing as not having made a pit stop yet. What on earth strategy is he running?
Is it a one-stop he's going for? Because if he is, that's pretty bold from the man who's costing a lot of people coffee at the moment.
Yeah, that's ambitious. If he is one-stopping.
About as ambitious as his coffees. Rosberg, 6.6 second stop. Rejoins just outside the points and rejoins behind fellow compatriot Vettel.
On newer tyres, he could still do something about his race, maybe even challenge for a podium place as Hülkenberg versus Perez for 5th place. So he's certainly on the move, looking to get into the top 5. Can he do it going into the first corner? Perez not defending, and Hülkenberg up the inside. They're going to run side by side for a little bit.
They are indeed, as Perez is going to try and stick it in there with Hülkenberg. Through into turn 2 we go, and it looks like Perez has got the edge around turn number 2, and I think he's going to hold on to the place as a result. But overall, the Tornado is appearing to struggle today in this race.
Yeah, Hülkenberg looking to do the Hamilton round turn 2. He did that quite a lot in real life, and particularly the 2013 race, so maybe turn 2 could be the Hamilton corner.
Speaking of Hamilton, he's now coming into the pits.
From the race lead and looking in control, but Magnussen has been closing the gap. It's now down to 22.5 seconds, so Lewis's win's not totally safe yet.
Although he has only taken 6 seconds out of him, so I think he's going to need a little bit more if he wants to beat Hamilton for the win here today.
And the key one for Hamilton is to rejoin ahead of Magnussen, because that will give him track position. And the 7.5 second stop, where is Magnussen? Just crossed the start-finish line there, and out of the pits. I think Hamilton, well, he did rejoin just behind Magnussen, but on new tyres, Hamilton back into the race lead.
Pretty easy as you like there, and I think that kind of confirms that maybe Magnussen might not be in for the fight for the win, as meanwhile Grosjean comes into the pits with 10.6 litres worth of fuel, and it's not like it's a mechanical issue, so he still had quite a bit of fuel left in the tank there.
Yeah, it could be a fuel consumption thing. It's a bit lower than expected, but only 14 extra litres added on, or 14 laps, depending on how you read that. But yeah, not a lot of fuel consumption in this race.
Yeah, indeed. 6.6 seconds for Grosjean, so that's the same sort of pit stop as what we saw with Rosberg a little bit earlier on. He comes out in 8th position. So maybe looking at some points, as meanwhile this is Nico Rosberg attacking Gonzalez here.
And up the inside, that's 6th place for Rosberg, and that's okay, but again, expected to be a championship contender. It hasn't quite worked out. Sergio Perez comes into the pits. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to see how GRM's 150th race is doing, and 12th and 14th, but both Bottas and Sainz have made second pit stops, so maybe an outside shot of points for Bottas.
Not exactly the race that I think George Roque was hoping for, it's fair to say. But I just saw at the same time as Perez coming in, I just saw that Cooper Lee also came into the pits as well. So both of them pitting at the same time, as the garage advantage not affecting Lee there because he had enough of a gap in front of Perez. So obviously stays in front of the Mexican driver for the time being.
So Lee holding position ahead of Perez as Gonzalez is now in 9th place, looking to get ahead of Vettel. And let's see, through the Baumgartner S's, that's 8 and 9, and then into 10 and 11. Chasing in Vettel's slipstream, and that's a bit wide for Gonzalez, and spin goes the Argentine.
And that is not what the championship leader needed, and well, he was outside the points, but that's going to compromise him a little bit further, and he actually drops down to 11th because he had to wait for a bit of traffic that was approaching him there. That's why he didn't get going straight away, but already onto the back of Valtteri Bottas here.
And that could quite easily gift Lewis Hamilton the championship lead, but then again Hamilton has just been has been very good this race, and probably would have taken the championship lead anyway without the Gonzalez mistake. But yeah, the normally consistent Gonzalez not having a great race, but he takes 10th from Bottas.
Watch us jinx Hamilton now that we've said that.
Oh, Bottas.
Well, it was close to Hamilton. I mean, he was a teammate of Hamilton's in real life, but it is a suspension failure that takes care of Valtteri Bottas, who Gonzalez just overtook.
So not a good race for JRM's milestone, unfortunately, as Nico Hülkenberg versus Sergio Perez going through a lacy corner, and now into the 12 pith path, should we call it? A couple of kinks, but it's just 12, now into 13.
Bit of an opinion there. Do you prefer that version of Hungary with those little left-right kinks there, or do you prefer the current one? Because personally, I prefer the current one, given there's a bit of a straight that could lead to an overtaking spot. I'll ask your opinion later, because Hülkenberg's going for the move here.
Going for the move into turn 1 later on the brakes, and side by side, and he's got him. Hülkenberg up to 6th. In terms of layout, the current one is a little bit better for overtaking, but in terms of a driver's circuit, I do prefer the old one a little bit. But both layouts are definitely better than the first iteration, which had a very, very tight chicane where turn 3 was. I don't know if you remember that one.
I do know it from watching some archives. We just see Gonzalez there overtaking Grosjean, but sorry, Verne that is. But I do remember seeing it for some archives, and Jesus Christ, if Twitter was there back in the day, we could imagine so many complaints about that bus stop chicane, but thankfully it's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, the reason they did that was because there was an underground river. The original layout was supposed to be the layout that they're currently racing on, but there was an underground river blocking the way and they had to divert the circuit. But then they removed that chicane, and having diverted the river and gone to the layout which they meant to do.
Ah, fair enough then. Which is why you can actually still see the remnants of that old chicane, in fact, even today, in fact. He's gone wide, and Hülkenberg takes 5th from him.
Hülkenberg up to 5th thanks to Lee's mistake, and, well, here's Nico Rosberg now, who's due into the pits. Usually one of the earlier pit stops because of his mechanical issue earlier in the race, but he's managed to salvage his race because he's on course for a podium.
Just like Grosjean, also coming in with around 10 laps worth of fuel, so it seems like a lot of drivers are seemingly doing that today in this race.
Yeah, as into the box goes Rosberg. Garage quite far down because Pedersen finished 9th in the Constructors' Championship last season. And on goes the fuel, and good stop, 5.8 seconds. And on the newer tyres, he should be able to regain 3rd place once the others come into the pits.
Indeed so, and he rejoins right behind Cooper Lee, in fact, so he's obviously got fresher tyres, so in theory he should be able to get Lee straight away, unless Lee makes a pit. Although it says that they've both done, in fact, no, never mind, in fact, unseen by the cameras, I think Rosberg has just re-overtaken Lee, as we now look at a fellow Nico Hülkenberg, attacking, is this Grosjean he's attacking into the first corner? It is.
That's for position as well, Hülkenberg up to 3rd now, and yeah, Grosjean's starting to slip back now on the X-Lite soft-tyred qualifying setup. As Rosberg, this is how he overtook Lee.
Pretty good move there, pretty simple indeed. I mean, as expected, he is on fresher tyres compared to Lee, so it was always going to be an easy move. As meanwhile, K-Mag comes into the pits.
First out of himself and Lewis Hamilton this time. It's usually Hamilton first and then Magnussen second, so Magnussen choosing to pit first this time round.
And actually, just an interesting fact, the last time he came into the pits, he was actually 22 seconds behind. This time around, he's actually 18.5 seconds behind. So he has still been eating into that lead, but whether it's enough or not, I'm not 100% sure.
We'll find out once the race progresses and Hamilton makes his final pit stop. Meanwhile, Rosberg back on the move once again. This is the Rosberg we should be seeing as he takes 4th from Romain Grosjean.
Shame that he's retiring at the end of the season because he's still going very quick in that car.
Maybe he'll do a Massa and cancel his retirement.
I highly doubt it. I think he wants to pursue his YouTube career.
As Lewis Hamilton comes into the pits from the race lead, gap between himself and Magnussen 33 seconds at this point, so no problem in retaining the lead unless GP4 creates a pit stop glitch.
Well, it is possible. I think in another series that I'm in at the moment, which is currently on hiatus, we have seen some pit stop glitches in the past, but I've not recalled any happening in FF1M so far. So I think they've had a lucky run. It's fair to say, as Hamilton finishes his pit stop, although he's had to wait for one of the shake and bake cars to finish their pit stop before going out onto the track. But he will still rejoin comfortably in the lead of the Grand Prix
in P1. So. There goes Lewis Hamilton looking on course for another victory, and that'll be a much needed one. And when you say pit stop glitches, there was one that happened in the 1992 Italian Grand Prix, which happened to Johnny Herbert in the FJR. He got involved in an incident, then came into the pits, but he never rejoined.
That was the GP3 days, wasn't it?
No, it was the Classic season that happened quite recently.
Ah, okay, fair enough. That's a bit of an interesting one. So I guess it has happened. Just not for the modern day FF1M at the moment, it's safe to say. Meanwhile, Gonzalez is trying to attack... Who is that? He's trying to attack...
Vern.
It looks like Jean-Eric Vern, and he's got the move done. He's up into 9th place. He's now just one place away from the points.
One place away from the points. Next target, Sebastian Vettel, as Grosjean on new tyres now. He seems to have recovered his pace, and he's challenging Cooper Lee for 5th place, going through Hill Corner, now into Hamilton Corner, and Lee hanging on for the moment.
Yeah, indeed, as Grosjean tries to go around the outside of Lee, but Lee not giving up just yet, as they now come around turn number 3, Mansell Corner, and it looks like Lee might just have the advantage to stay in front, as Perez is also gaining, and he does. So Lee holding on to 5th, and meanwhile Gonzalez now on the back of Sebastian Vettel here for the final points place.
And it wasn't so far of giving the shake and bake a nudge on the back, but Gonzalez looking for that point to try and do damage limitation, as now on the penultimate lap, Lewis Hamilton looking to lap the Meister of Kimi Räikkönen.
We're actually on the final lap. I heard penultimate lap there on my end.
Final lap, yeah.
Yep, we are now on the final lap of the race, and Lewis, it's safe to say, 13.2 seconds, a dominant display from the Brit.
Yeah, I'm used to Hungaroring being 77 laps on the old variants, but FF1M does things slightly differently. But, yep, since the final pit stop, he's looked fairly comfortable as... Well, that was Cooper Lee. Oh, it's a pet blow up for Perez!
Oh, dearie me. And, well, that's not going to amuse Tobias one bit at all, as Perez loses a points place. So that will actually, I think, promote Sebastian Vettel into the points.
And Thomas Gonzalez up a position as well, as out of the final corner to take another victory. Second of the season, Lewis Hamilton. That's a much needed result for himself, and it kickstarts his championship campaign and takes the lead, I believe, but we'll confirm that a bit later. 38th career win for Lewis.
Pretty impressive indeed, and a fully deserved one of that as well. Maybe, just maybe, could we be looking at another Hamilton World Championship this season?
And that would be Mitchell's first championship as well, if he can achieve that one.
A long time coming if that's the case. 13.2 seconds in the end, and well, they had a very big gap to Rosberg, who despite that issue comes away with a podium.
Yeah, blessing in disguise, that mechanical issue, but a much needed podium for Nico. And as mentioned, Kevin Magnussen second and Nico Hülkenberg fourth, so some solid points for FJR. That will certainly secure them third in the Constructors' Championship.
Thomas Gonzalez finishing in 7th, so yeah, I do believe Hamilton, if my maths are correct, will actually lead the championship by 2 points if memory serves correct. And just a note as well, even though this track has had a reputation of having chaos, there wasn't that much today.
No, most are mechanical retirements, except for Fernando Alonso, who got caught up in a spin and then got collected by a tornado.
Indeed so, but in total we still had 7 retirements in this race, and the only one really that you could classify as maybe a driver error that took him out of the race was Fernando Alonso today. All the rest have been mechanical.
Absolutely, and you're indeed correct about the championship gap being 2 points. Hamilton takes the championship lead, 68 to 66 over Gonzalez, and Perez third, but being caught up by Kevin Magnussen now, and starting to become a four-way championship battle for the lead now. I think Ricciardo, Lee and Rosberg may be a tad too far back to challenge for the championship, but you never know.
So maybe no second title for Rosberg in his final season. He might just walk away as just a one-time champion as a result.
Maybe so, and the Tornado do still lead the Constructors' Championship, but the gap shrinks to 15 points over Mitchell now, and FJR also closing up as well. They're now on 72 points, with Andrew holding on to 4th, and Pedersen retake Exolite for 5th place.
Hopefully, with some luck, we can get out of last place before the end of the season. That might be a good way to end our relationship with Ilmore in some capacity.
Well, the next race is a power track, and I'm expecting quite a lot of manufacturer teams to be running full airs, with maybe the exception of Gajera, but it's the Hockenheim race next, the German Grand Prix, so from the two of us, we shall see you for then.
See you later, and watch our audio get looped right at the end like in the previous 2 highlights.